have found the Genesis frequency. This is Dr. Stephen J. Kazmina welcoming you in to another episode of a show that focuses on your whole life prosperity and success. Whole life prosperity and success by cooperating with the universal laws that are available to each and every one of us. This is Quantum Leap Goal Achievement, radical personal transformation, whole life prosperity and success. Now, stay tuned for another exciting episode that'll move the needle in your life from where you are now to where you want to be.
And good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time of day it may be, wherever you are in the world when you hit that play button. So glad you did. You have found the Genesis Frequency Podcast. And this is Dr. Cause, in effect, Dr. Stephen J. Kazmina coming at you. Guess what? This is episode 300 within our 6th year of doing this. Yes, indeed. 300 episodes. Boy, in this day and age when people say, hey, well, I want to try doing a podcast, and they last maybe a month or two with a few episodes, 300 episodes. I'm feeling pretty good about that because I know that the value that I put out there and give to you is transformational, transformational and tremendous. And so I want to thank you, the listeners, because really a podcast doesn't last this long on all the different platforms that I am on all over the world without listeners to support it. So I'm grateful for that. Hopefully, I'll be adding maybe a sponsor this year for all 300 episodes. It has been commercial free. I have had no ads running except, plugging what I do. And all that I do is personal, professional, and leadership development. That's what I do. That's my life. I talk about it. I speak about it. I train about it. I run programs about it. I facilitate programs. I can be the sage from the stage, but I love being the guide from the side and just facilitating some of the work of the brilliant minds in this world. So whatever it is, I love helping others out to accomplish whatever it is they want to accomplish, whatever they want to achieve, whatever the goal is for their life, personally, professionally, and in their business and in their corporate environment. So reach out to me for that. That door is always open, especially for listeners. I don't click the stopwatch when we get on a call. We hammer a few things out. We always get to the point of what is it that you want. And believe it or not, that's usually where people are stuck because they don't give themselves permission to dream big. So we talk about what do you really, 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 really want? We forget about the how. That's none of your business anyway. What do you want? And this is for individuals, small businesses, and those in the corporate space as well. What do you want? What do you want? Where do you want to take the company? All that. So if you're a C-suite, you're in leadership, you're in management, you're a supervisor, you're in charge of something, you're always in charge of your own life too, right? You're the CEO of that. Or you're a small business owner, a solopreneur, entrepreneur, whatever it is. What is it? You got to identify it, right? And then what's keeping you stuck? Why don't you have it yet? And there's some things that we get into in consciousness and subconsciousness and just the way that we're wired that are keeping you stuck. And I'll help you identify those and set you on your way with a plan that will help you move from where you are to where you want to be in the shortest amount of time. I call that making a quantum leap. So that's my little commercial. You can always reach out to me at successappointment.com and you can use that's just a calendar system. It's not a sales page or a funnel or anything like that. Successappointment.com. My calendar opens up in your time zone and use the same calendar, whether you want to talk about what I just shared with you, whether you want to talk about an opportunity to come in and do a program, do some training in your company. I am a franchisee of Leadership Management International, and we have the total leader concept. We love to facilitate within companies, and we can talk about that. as well. Same calendar, right? So you want to talk about that? You want me to come in and do a keynote or a featured presentation talk? I would love to do that as well. If you're looking just as an individual that wants to work on you and get something moved into your life, whether it's a relationship, an improved relationship, whether it's financial abundance, time and money, freedom, health, and physical fitness, whatever it is, let's set that big dream goal. Let's do that thing. Small business owners, solopreneurs, same calendar. If you are someone that has just had enough of working on somebody else's dreams and goals, and you want to start an online business working from anywhere in the world with just your laptop and a telephone, hey, that's how this whole thing started. For me, same calendar. Let's have a conversation. So whatever it is, would love to speak with you and get with you. And I also, hey, I put on the marketing hat too, so I can help you in that area with a bunch of ideas. And I also work with Kevin Harrington, the original Shark, and can get you on Kevin's Get Down to Business TV show and help you with Kevin's team of marketing experts. I'm with the best of the best because they have sold more products than anybody I know of in the entire world. So any of them, same calendar, successappointment.com. All right, let's get to it. Enough of all that. Show 300. Where did this all start for me? We're going to get back to the master key system next episode. I told you last episode that for those of you that are newer, don't really know my story and my trilogy of tribulation that led to my transformation. So I thought I would share a little bit around that because sometimes when we communicate, we just assume everybody knows the whole story. And especially when you have a podcast, there's people joining all the time. There's people falling off and moving away and listening to something else and chasing that next shiny object. Don't do that, by the way. Stick with something that provides tremendous value and listen over and over again. But it's easy to assume that everybody knows the whole story, the whole backstory, the whys, and how did you do it, and all that kind of thing. And I realized I didn't really share my story. Man, it was way back in the first episode, and that was like 6 years ago. And I've been deep, 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 deep into my own transformation starting it's been over 15 years ago now. And what is the background all that? Now, when I come in and I do a talk in a new place that hasn't heard of me, doesn't know who I am, and I come in and I do this in a lot of churches and other events, I'll tell my story in the third person. I tell my story about this guy that went through and I tell the story. And then at the end I reveal, hey, that was me. You can do it too. It's not about my story, it's about your story, no matter what it is, no matter what you struggled through, no matter what the challenges you are facing now, you can overcome them. And that's what I'm all about, that overcoming part, that overcoming those trials and those challenges that seem insurmountable, moving past those. See, I got part of my story here. I'll just dive right into it so you know a little bit about me. I I got married very young, and I started. Well, I was born and raised in the Catholic faith, and very very religious family. Nothing wrong with that. All good. Great relationship with mom and dad. Cared for their family. Worked hard. The traditional. That generation. World War II dad and blue collar worker. Mom's a school teacher and just great parents, great upbringing. So no issues there, right? And I was born with drumsticks in my hand. I was a drummer since I was born. Toy drum sets every year, every birthday and Christmas because I destroyed them. So I always got a new one. But it started when I was an infant. I had spoons and banging on pots and pans when I was an infant or a toddler. There's pictures of that out there somewhere. But hey, let's cut to the chase here. I got married very young and um, back in, say 1980-ish, 79-ish, maybe 1980. I got married in 78. 80, I I ordered a book from the Detroit Free Press. This guy had a full page ad. I think his name was Al Kimbrough because I used it. I tracked all that down in my dissertation for my doctorate. And don't let that impress you because I was nothing but a college dropout, all right? Just barely made it through high school. But at that time, I was married. 1980, we were expecting our first child, married in 78. And I got this book. This guy was advertising in the Detroit Free Press, and the headline was "The Lazy Man's Way to Riches." And I'm going, wow, I read that ad, and it was great ad copy. You can probably find that out there if you can Google it, because I think I did for my dissertation a few years back. But the lazy man's race to riches. I said, this is all about me. I mean, I was 20 years old, ready to retire. I was just ready to kick back and drink, drink beer. And that's what I love doing. I played in a band, that evolved, that part of me evolved. I played in a band. I worked at music stores, moved up in music stores, went on to work for Gibson Guitars and travel a few states and all that. And I love to drink my beer and smoke my cigarettes, man. I started smoking in high school and drinking beer probably last year of high school. I don't know. Anyway, I got this book. I ordered this book, The Lazy Man's Ways to Riches, and I could not wait to devour this thing. I mean, I remembered every word of that ad copy, and I wanted everything it was talking about in this ad copy. So the book really didn't disappoint. The first part of the book, it was split into two halves. The first part of the book was talking about how wonderful. Now, remember, this is all before the internet. This is all before computers and that kind of thing. You got excited when you went and picked up the magazine from the bookstore, Income Opportunities, and you had all that hope and ambition and desire for a different life than going to work for somebody else all day long. So this book, the first half of it, talked about how this gentleman made his fortune in the mail order business, and he didn't really work hard at it. And it was all about the process of setting up a mail order business, selling some information. Really no different from today. It's just how they were doing it without computers and how mail order had served him well. Here I am reading his book, ordered it through the mail, right? The second part of the book, the second half of the book started talking about the power of our subconscious mind. And I was fascinated. I was hooked because I could see everything that was being explained to me in plain English. I could understand it. And I saw how that worked in my life. I wanted to do something and I would affirm things. And I noticed that when I went to do the habit for perhaps that I wanted to break, that my affirmation would spring, show up in front of my eyes, and it would remind me, hey, don't do that thing. You want something else. It's just kind of a rough way I said it back then compared to how I say it a bit more eloquently these days. So I I was just fascinated. I read more books. We started going to having children, starting a family. We started going to what I call a New Thought church, a unity church in the area because we were from different backgrounds and we wanted to find that meeting in the middle place where we could bring our children, get some of that spiritual nourishment that we at least agreed there that our children needed. And so I went to this New Thought Unity Church, and I was astonished at all the books that they had in there that were very similar, talking about similar things that I found in the back half of this Lazy Man's Ways to Riches books. Power of the Subconscious Mind and Joseph Murphy and all these books by Wayne Dyer and all these other books, Ralph Waldo Emerson and Charles and Myrtle Fillmore and on and on and on, all these authors in this bookstore and Norman Vincent Peale and the power of faith and the power of positive thinking. I started getting the little things that I could afford and started reading this stuff, right? Now, I still like drinking beer though. And back then I read books. I didn't study them. And I tell everybody, don't read another book. Study these things. Study them. And it was back then I got the power of positive thinking. Yeah. Norman Vincent Peale books, and I got all the Wayne Dyer books, and I got W. Clement Stone and Zig Ziglar and Tom Hopkins and Brian Tracy and all these books. I'm gathering them and I'm reading some, and it was very rare for me to make it through an entire book back then. I had read it in one hand. I had a poor vocabulary, had a book in one hand, had a beer in the other hand. So I wasn't really, the information was going in, but without, and I say this a lot, been saying it more and more lately, without the action and application of the material, without real study and repetition, it's not going to have an impact and influence the way it should, especially the material I was reading, which was just so good. But I kept all those books and they were there and I pick them up from time to time. But I love drinking my beers and I love smoking my cigarettes. And I just kept doing that and doing that and doing that. That marriage fell apart, moved into another relationship, got married again, and just more enabling and more drinking and more things that I shouldn't have been doing that went even beyond the the beer and the cigarettes and adding in some shots of this and shots of that and stuff that I shouldn't have been doing. And it just got worse and worse and worse. I lost my second wife to cancer, but just a year after that I had double bypass open heart surgery. But that didn't stop. I still wanted my beer and still wanted my cigarettes, and I kept going with all of that. And I kept going and kept going and kept going. And I was not, one of these guys that when it came to my beer and my brandy, I was not one of these guys that one is too many and a million's not enough because I would drink and then I was done. At the end of the day, I was done. I wanted something to eat, and that was it. Get up tomorrow, do it again. So I was functioning. I worked, and early on, I didn't do really good with holding down a lot of jobs. I generally quit them and wanted to move on to something else, but was doing really good into the 2000s and making some better money. I moved from the music industry into the heating and cooling business, but all the drinking and the smoking started to catch up on me. And in 2008, I got really, 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 really sick. 2008, I really thought it was my heart. I had a double bypass back in 95, and I thought that that double bypass, they told me it's only going to last probably about 10 years. We're going to have to get in there and redo it. So that was planted in my mind. That was terrifying to me because I was 35 years old. They ripped open my chest, took my heart out, operated on it, put it back in there, did some plumbing and all that kind of thing, right? So I'm terrified with all this. So in 2008, I'm getting real sick, having these tremendous chest pains. And I'm thinking they got to go back in and redo the plumbing. I'm on borrowed time. 10 years has been up for 3 years now, right? And I am sick, but I'm working, right? I couldn't walk, and I'd pull up to a customer's place of business. It took me a half hour to walk up to the door, which was a few feet away, because I had to stop every few steps because of the weight of the chest pain. And I was blowing up. I went up to almost 206, almost 300 pounds, I think. I don't remember exactly what it was, but I was getting big. Something wasn't right, chest pains, but I was that stubborn guy now. I'll go. I got to get a couple more beers, and I'll go to the doctor, right? Just stubborn, just being sick. I'll get better, right? I'll get better. It's probably gas, that kind of thing. You know what guys do. But it didn't get better. It got worse and worse. I'm going to golf outings and watching these guys from work golf and having fun. I couldn't golf because I couldn't even wear a regular shoe. I couldn't wear a regular dress shoe. My ankles and feet were so swollen that I couldn't get in a rack. I had to go to one of those value shoe markets and get oversized shoes, and I couldn't even lace them up because my ankles were getting so big. I mean, it was obvious I was sick. Everyone could see it but me. And then finally, late in 2008, I mean, I couldn't get into the doctor. The chest pains are getting bad. It's getting close to Christmas time. I didn't have a regular doctor. I had stopped seeing my cardiologist years ago and just making all kind of inefficient choices, right? So I had made an appointment for after the holidays with my old cardiologist. And they had called back. Thank God, by the grace of God, they called back. And this show's going to go a little longer today, so you might want to stop it and restart it. If you got to do something, it's not going to be your normal 20 minutes. I'm just going to take it and run with it here. So I got in. They called me and said, "Hey, we got an opening if you want to come in." And I said, "I better take this because I'm not going to make it much longer." I mean, I was sitting. I had to sleep. I didn't sleep much, but I had to sleep curled over a pillow sitting up so the chest pains wouldn't come. And I had to be real close to the bathroom because I was going black. It was black every single time I went, all over. Enough said there. Too much information, right? So I, I went to the cardiologist. The guy said, "The name sounds vaguely familiar. I believe you that you came here before, but your records have been archived. It's been so long. So I have no information on you, no background. You tell me you had a double bypass. Okay, I believe you, but I don't recognize you. I don't know who you are. I don't know anything about your history." He gave a couple listens. He took the stethoscope up. He says, "But I took an oath. You're here, so I got to treat you." But he was just disgusted with me, with what I'd done to myself. There's a part of me thinks that he probably did recognize me and just was so appalled by what I did to myself. So he gave a couple listens and he says, "I'm not sure it's your heart. I want you to take this note, go right around the corner to emergency and tell them that I gave this to you to give to them." Well, I couldn't read his writing, what was on the note. And so I left out scared. I left there, and what did I do? I went right to the party store, got another case of beer, another pint of, well, it was more than a pint. I think it was a liter of Mohawk Blackberry brandy. And that's not a paid commercial. That stuff will kill you. So I was going to think about this one more. So I went home, had some beers, had some brandies, but I knew that was going to be it for a while. Smoking my cigarettes, my Cool 100s. No, I'm not getting paid by Cool either. And so I did that, and then I went to the hospital the next morning. I drove myself there in the truck and went to the hospital. Went in, gave them the note, and they looked at the note and they kind of huddled in the corner there. They had me lay down and they said, "You're really sick. You're not to get up out of this bed. You're not even to get up out of this bed and go to the bathroom." And they started doing some tests there, right there and there, drawing the blood and right from the bed and moving me and not letting me get up. And I had to go use the bathroom in bed and all that stuff. And it's just, I'm getting freaked out here. And finally, this doctor comes in after quite a few tests, and he says, "Well, good news and bad news." He goes, and this guy had no bedside manner. This guy was, "Good news is it's not your heart. We think your heart's okay. Can't tell you, but it's not your heart. The bad news is you're bleeding to death internally, and you probably have about 3 days to live, depending on the choices you make. You have no blood left in you. Pretty much it's all gone. You've been bleeding out internally. The reason your heart hurts, it's like when you go to prime a pump, you have to prime a pump when there's no water in it, it's sucking, trying to go. Your heart is hurting because it's grasping for blood to pump. It's trying to pump whatever is in there, grabbing water, grabbing fluid, but you're bleeding to death. Your liver's shutting down, your internal organs are shutting down. You have what we call esophageal varices that are bleeding into your stomach. You're just a mess, and your body's just giving up. You're bleeding to death. They proceeded to give me blood. They hooked me up to blood. I got by the time I got out of there, I think I got 6.5 pints of blood. I think our bodies only hold about 8. So yeah, I was just about out of blood. So I come to find out later, I was a lot closer than 3 days to death's door. But I lay there and I did have decisions to make. I didn't want to believe in the 3 days to live thing. I didn't want to believe it. Scared me. And if you've listened to any number of these shows, the only way we can change our habitual habits is through 2 ways. Is emotional impact. Really with what I went through is, scaring the bejesus out of you to make that change, or habituals. spaced repetition of a new habit that you want to install to remove the old programming. Well, none of that worked for me. I had this emotional impact, and that did it for me because I just laid there getting this blood transfusion over the course of 2 or 3 days. And it's right around Christmas time. Nobody's really coming to see me. And the relationship I was in at the time, she stayed home drinking. She couldn't face it. She was almost as bad as I was. And so I went through this and I'm laying there and getting more clarity. And of course, no beers, no cigarettes, no brandy, no anything. And as I'm laying there, I knew I had a choice. And it came rushing back to me. Those books that I read with, I guess they served me well, that I read with a beer in one hand and the book in the other. That information started coming back to me. The information I had gathered in the New Thought Church that I first walked into in 1980 and went to on and off in between uh, with a day or two here of clarity. And I felt good about what I learned. I felt good about what I was exposed to. The new thought faith is all about learning to live from the inside out rather than from the outside in, learning to find our own answers inside rather than to believe in someone else's ideas of the answers they found and buy into someone else's beliefs. So all that stuff I learned came rushing back to me and telling me that, yeah, I don't have to believe in these doctors. I can choose to believe and have faith in something beyond the doctors, something beyond appearances, something beyond my experience of this world. I could believe in that higher power. I could believe in that higher self. I could believe in me. I knew that I was powerful to make a new choice. And that's where power is. And I saw it so plainly and so clearly. And that's really how I learned it. Application and action, right? I made it past my 3 days. Obviously, I'm here speaking to you, and it's over 15 years later. And I made a choice then and there that I'm gonna take a dive back into this material because it made me feel good. It made me feel good in a way, not the feeling good I felt after my first couple of beers, right? So I was discharged. I got out to my truck. I made it my 3 days. Still sick, not really strong, but still sick, weak, long road ahead, right? But I made it to my truck. Had a pack of cigarettes waiting for me. Those went right out the window. I had a choice to make, and therein lies our power. The choices that we make in every moment. I had a choice. I could have had a cigarette and been happy to have another cigarette. Just finally got it. I could have went home, said to have another beer, and say, yeah, I made it 3 days. I don't got much time. I'm gonna get some more beers, and didn't do it. I never have ever had another sip of alcohol again since I walked out of that hospital. Never had another cigarette again. Never touched anything again. I went through some surgeries and didn't even do the pain pills after now or codeine or whatever they give you and all that stuff. Didn't do it. Didn't do it. Just moved through it. So that was the first thing in my what I call my trilogy of tribulation. And yes, as I shared earlier, I'm going over here a little bit today, and I intended to. So after that, I'm getting better. I'm feeling better. I'm getting stronger. I'm working out. I'm exercising. I'm diving into learning more about me and waking up because up until that point, I had drank just about every day of my life since I was in high school, and here I'm 50 years old or something like that, and my what I didn't mention is in '77 my dad died while he was jogging. He was an exercise guy, a walker, a runner, and that kind of thing. And he didn't drink and he didn't smoke. And he died at 52 while he was jogging. And so I had in the back of my mind, talking about the power of our subconscious mind, I had in the back of my mind that I'm probably going to make it to his age and that's going to be it for me too. And plus, I drank and smoked. So that part was coming true because it was a dominant thought buried in my subconscious mind. So I learned from that. I learned that I have the power to make a different choice. So anyway, as I was getting better, I was dropping the weight. I was getting physically fit by, yeah, and I said I was almost 300 pounds by August of that year. I had dropped down to 181 pounds, and I was in the best shape I had ever been in my entire life. I looked good and I felt good. And anybody that has gone through any kind of addiction and recovery, you know that when you first do that, you live a lot from ego, which I work here on this show to get you to not live from ego but I was looking good, feeling good, and I was all into myself, how good I looked and all that stuff. And boy, oh boy, I had that time in the hospital, and I was really grateful for it in a way. It was scary, but it saved my life. And I look back when I tell the story, I said I really made a choice. I chose life. I chose uh, to I chose life, and I felt that power in the moment rather than the alternative of going back to the habits that I used to participate in. I chose life rather than death. And I found power in making that choice. Well, all 2009 was about recovery. In 2009, into that year, unrelated to all this, just 4 months into getting better, looking better, feeling better, losing the weight, getting my hemoglobin and all that stuff back up. I was in a nasty rollover accident. I was driving a truck on my way to meet my boss in the morning, local expressway in the Detroit area. It's raining out. A young person lost control of their little SUV and really kind of T-boned me, if you will, on a busy expressway in Detroit, going at expressway speeds. And I don't know what, it's just crazy. I let go of the wheel. It just hit me right on the driver's side door as if I was getting T-boned. And not only lost control, I just gave up control. I had my seat belt on, but I went careening head on into the cement wall underneath a viaduct, underneath a bridge, an overpass, whatever you want to call it. And I hit that thing and I started rolling. I started rolling over and that was, I thought, oh man, I made it this far. I transformed. I'm starting to make this transformation. It smelled like smoke. It's rush hour traffic. I'm skidding along the expressway upside down. The windshield's gone. Gravel's coming in the window. I mean, stones or cement, whatever it was, coming in the window. And I don't know what's going on. I mean, it's rush hour. Detroit, a lot of trucks on the road. But is a semi going to hit me? Am I going to blow up because I smelled something? And if I could get out, I don't know where I was. I was disoriented. Would I crawl into oncoming traffic and get hit? And it's just like, but there was this peace over me as I rolled, and I was just sitting there because it was that feeling of surrender, that feeling that my higher power, that God's got this, got me, no matter what, no matter what. I total surrender, total release, totally out of control. I just gave it up. This is it. This is it. I'm good. But I did. I managed to get my seatbelt off. Right to me. Let's talk. I'll send you pictures. I dropped to what was now the ceiling of the truck. I crawled out the window, and luckily it was on the opposite side of the traffic side. I got onto the shoulder of the road, hands on the hips, not a scratch on me. So I did some serious thinking, crystal clear thinking. I did not go back to grabbing a beer. No, I went home, regrouped, and called my boss and said, "Hey, I'm going to be late meeting you today." Really, really shooken up though. But I did some thinking about that. And when I tell the story about that second piece, it's like, okay, I chose life. Now I came so close here, doing everything I thought I was supposed to do, but living from ego, uh, you know, now I think that was a message that now I really need to live my life. So I chose life, but now I really need to live it purposely, not from that ego place, but to live life on purpose, really diving into what my life's all about. What is the meaning, man? I'm still here, man. I outwitted I don't know what, but I'm still here and I made it and I'm here for a reason. Everything I went through in the last couple of months, plus all the death I was experiencing, I moved through that in my trilogy of tribulation, moved away from that accident. I had some shoulder surgery, which was unrelated to that, but didn't use any of the narcotics available to me. And then I went moved into 2010 and into 2010, the third part of this story, the trilogy of tribulation, is March of that year. I'm deep into my spirituality, went back to that New Thought church that I had first won into in 1980, was volunteering for things, participating in things. In fact, I was rehearsing a piece that I was going to do the next Sunday. This was Saturday night. And I got a call from my youngest son. I had two boys. And I got a call from my youngest son that my oldest son had just dropped dead, had a heart attack while he was eating his dinner. And, I just dropped to the floor, dropped to my knees, just crushed. The call no parent should ever have. And it, it just dropped me again. And the way I tell the story, and it's still hard telling it again, but I chose life. Then I chose to live life. And through the death of my son, I chose to live my life through love, through giving in a loving way, through seeing through the eyes of love, through being what love is, doing things with love, expressing love, being the support that love does, because I felt it. I felt it in the hospital. I felt it when I was in that truck accident. I felt it when my son died. That divine love, that unfathomable, unconditional love that moves into support, that makes you strong when you have no other choice to be strong. Because I had to be strong. I had to support my mother that lost her firstborn grandson, and my brother, who was very close to my son, lost his first nephew, and my two sisters lost their first nephew, and all these friends I saw coming out of the woodwork that really loved my son. We got along, but we had some things, and it was just a whole process. But it was that trilogy that really moved me deeper and deeper and deeper. Shortly after that, I went and enrolled in the seminary of that New Thought church that I walked into 1980. And I spent the next 4 years working and going to night school, and was ordained in 2014 in this body of material that I talked to you about. But I take it mainstream, and I leave out any religiosity, because there is none in New Thought. It's not a religious movement. It's about living life and navigating this human experience personally and professionally by finding the answers, finding our answers inside, and looking at everything in the personal, professional, and leadership development field, and applying it and taking action on it and finding what works for us. And that's what has led me to where I am now. I I moved on. I was ordained, but I wanted to do something more mainstream. I didn't want to. I did church. I did church for 10 years, but I still had that desire to have more of an impact outside the walls of a building where the same people were coming, week in and week out. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, and there's nothing wrong with you coming and listening to the show week in and week out, right? And that's what I want. But I wanted to take all these things, all this stuff that I've learned in these books, and I wanted to bring it into the workplace and the corporate space. Not so much the spirituality, but I think that runs like a thread through everything in life, because everything is connected through that thread of love and compassion and kindness and caring, right? So I wanted to package this in a different way and deliver it to the corporate space, and that's what I'm doing right now. What I did throughout this journey, I did that church for a while, but I also went back and I got my bachelor's and I got my master's and I got my doctorate. My doctorate's in holistic life coaching. Holistic simply meaning the whole person, mentally, spiritually, physically. emotionally, all of it, the whole person. And from there, I went on. I connected with Bob Proctor, worked with Bob, studied with Bob, went to see Bob, and learned from him directly. Became a Proctor Gallagher Institute consultant, certified consultant, and recently the franchisee of Leadership Management International. And doing this podcast. This podcast, I always love radio, but this was another opportunity besides the coaching and the consulting and the speaking and all that I still do. It's another way to just get the message out, to give back. And you don't pay for this. There's tremendous value in here. And I want to thank you. I want to thank you for listening, especially if you're still here now. This show's twice the length, but I wanted to do something that went a little bit deeper for the 300th episode here. And I found a lot of those intangible aspects of character, intangible aspects of spirit as really as gifts, as power that helped me to rise above, helped me to move those mountains in my life, helped me to overcome the challenges because I was always about, and I'm still about, today I rise, today I rise, today I rise, today I overcome. Somebody else didn't do it. It's my relationship that I have with my indwelling essence, the spirit, that part of me that is of the divine. And within that, it is those elements of faith, strength, wisdom, love, power, imagination, understanding, will, order, elimination, knowing what to let go of in life, zeal, excitement, and life itself, life with an uppercase L, knowing that, hey, life isn't just about what we move through day in and day out in our routine experience. Life with an uppercase L is that place in us where we can live from that higher self, that connection point to infinite intelligence, unlimited wisdom, all knowledge and knowing, right? The keeper of order. We have access to all of that within us. And we do that. We access that in a certain way. And people are telling me, outline that book the certain way, taking all of this. And we hear that in the book, The Science of Getting Rich. There is a certain way. And the more and more I move on and experience more and more success each and every year, it's by being and doing things in a certain way. Be, do, and have. We got to be it first. And I have been becoming all my life, working on being better and better and better and better and better. And that's my story. And you know what? It just went through a lot of different things seeking to become that entrepreneur. What I left out there is back in 2013, when I was getting my life together, about a year before I was going to be ordained. I just wanted out of corporate so bad. And here I'm looking to get back into corporate as a trainer, right? And doing a lot of that more and more too. And I love that aspect of it, but I'm not chained to a desk within corporate. That's what I love about it, because I love the corporate environment, just not being chained. And with that thought of not being chained, in 2013 is when I really started my company, Success Ocean International, but strictly focusing on those that did not want to be chained either. And I still have that company, still involved in that business. It is still going strong. It has survived the test of time. It is not multi-level marketing. There is no selling. There is no explaining. There is no convincing. And it has served me well from the beginning. I am a master within that um, opportunity. So if you want to talk about that, if you want to move to the place of being a solopreneur, working anywhere in the world with a laptop and phone, from the beach, the boat, the balcony, wherever it is you choose, and remember there's power in choice, we can have a conversation about that. That's what I did back then. I didn't know what I wanted to do moving through seminary and my ministry, but I just knew I wasn't going to make what I was making in corporate. So I set myself up back in 2013 to have something that was in the personal and professional and leadership development space. that I could go to market with, that I could talk to other people about, that was attached to a business opportunity and move on from there. And I've been with the company ever since. And it's over 10 years now and going on 11. It'll be 11 years in this July. So we can have a conversation about that. But that's what I'm all about. I have that. I have what I shared in the early part of the program, the training, the speaking, the programs for individuals and for corporations. And I love doing that. I would love to have a conversation with you. With that, we're going to wrap it up here just past the 45-minute mark. I want to thank you for being here. I want to thank you for listening to this, my 300th episode. Let's party. How? I don't know. Maybe I'll have a Krispy Kreme donut. I gotta work on that one now. But anyway, hey, it's been a great ride. We're gonna continue with this. The next episode, we'll go back to the master key system. Great stuff in that little known book that we apply and take action on in our lives, personally and professionally, can have make a tremendous difference, have a tremendous impact and influence, and really be a difference maker. So we're going to continue with some key points from that book and how we apply them in our lives, personally and professionally, when we come back next week episode. Hey, these come out every Thursday morning at 2 a.m. Central Time. I record them earlier in the week and I schedule them to come out because I have a lot of listeners in different time zones. So that's when this comes out. If you will, and ever want to be early bird or catch it, depending on what podcast service, and I'm on all of them: Stitcher, Google Podcasts, Amazon Podcast, Apple Podcast, Pandora, Spotify, Castbox. I mean, whatever it is, a lot of those will have reminders. You can set a reminder or notification to receive notice that, hey, a new episode's been pushed out. I know Google has that. So, yeah, Google Podcast too. So anyway, there you have it. So hit that button, subscribe, share this, please. Share this with other people, and get on my calendar, successappointment.com. Visit my website, thegenesisfrequency.com. Let's have a conversation. For now, that's going to do it for this episode, number 300. This is Dr. Cause and Effect, Dr. Stephen J. Kosmina, and I wish for you an infinitely spectacular day. God bless you.